All right, well, welcome everybody to the Climate Action Committee meeting, which we will bring to order now. Start with the roll call.
Committee Member Ruiz.
Here.
Thank you. Committee Member Simon.
Here.
Thank you. Committee Member Sampath.
Here.
Thank you. Committee Member Reed is not present. Committee Member Lang.
Here.
Thank you. Committee Member D. Alexander.
Here.
Thank you. And Chair Burtis.
Here.
Thank you.
Let's salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business here will be approval of the minutes from the March meeting. I don't know if people had a chance to read them over. We have any comments on the minutes? Yeah.
Public comment quickly first.
Yes, you're right. Sorry. Don't have anybody here in person. Is there anybody online that can make a public comment?
Anyone with a hand raised on Zoom currently, and we did not receive any email public comments.
Okay. In that case, last call, we will close public comment period for non-agenda items. Of course, opportunity to comment on other. Do we have some people online? We have one person. Okay. Great. In that case, we'll move on to the minutes. Do we have any comments on the minutes that were circulated from the last meeting? No. In that case, somebody want to move to approve them?
I'll move to approve them.
Okay. A second.
Yeah, second.
Okay. In that case, vote to approve minutes. Ayes, yes. Any objections?
Yes.
No. Very good. Okay, so next order of business here is the election of the vice chair. I believe we had one interested party. We have
One
more.
reluctant, interested.
Karen kindly offered to be
I
the
did.
vice chair.
Because it is interesting to learn the administrative. You see him doing things and being so. I mean, I said I would do it, but I also think it shouldn't be. Would like to volunteer. That'd be fine too.
Don't see any takers. I think
Okay.
I don't know if we do have to do anything more formal than just have a vote or.
Yeah, so we'd need
Do I leave?
a nomination and a second and then vote. So
Okay. Well, I'm happy to nominate Karen Lang as our vice chair. Get a second on that. Okay. In that case, all in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
All opposed? None opposed.
All right.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that.
Okay.
We won't need to lean on you too
I
much.
was going to say that'll be the last early flight you'll catch. No, it's okay.
Yeah, right.
No, it's okay. Sorry.
Thanks for doing that. Okay. I assume that there's no public comment necessary on that item.
probably we should have had public comment, yes, but
Okay.
there wasn't any emailed public comment or hands raised during that.
Okay. Great. So in that case, we are on to item B, which is discussion of strategies to promote multifamily EV charger installations. We have, I suppose, three elements to this. One is just a brief update on various activities in terms of conversations that have been happening at the subcommittee level. Two would be, and Phil, of course, if you want to give any further update from our last discussion. Second is Karen has put together a presentation, which hopefully everybody read, regarding kind of the state of play of EV charger multifamily in Corte Madera, which I think is really useful background information. And then third, we are discussing we are planning to go and talk to some of the property owners in town, property managers, to try to get their perspective on EV chargers and those who have installed, those who haven't installed, and so on, and get a better feel for that. We put together a list of questions which were circulated as well. So we'd like to get comment on that when we get to that part of the discussion. So why don't we start, I guess, just with a general update. If you recall from the last meeting, we were decided to focus on this, I think, in the January meeting as a key topic for the committee this year. And at the last meeting, we agreed to go out and do some research and try to get a better fact base in terms of what's actually happening. Sort of how many units are we talking about? What are the incentives and so on? So as I mentioned, Karen will present that. We have a call with our liaison from MCE on, I think it's Monday, Tuesday, sometime next week. Phoebe, Karen, and I, to firstly understand better what the incentives are that are offered for multifamily landlords, unit landlords, and also to get any learnings that they might have had in terms of working with landlords and property managers who tried to, who have installed chargers or have thought about installing chargers, and whether there's anything that we can learn. So just really kind of a fact gathering exercise. And then, as you'll see from Karen's presentation, we've identified a short list of apartment complexes in Corte Madera, which account for actually more than half of all the units, the multifamily units in town. And so we plan to go talk to those folks, and we'll go through the list of questions. So, Phil, is there anything you want to add from your, you gave a nice update at the last meeting.
Yeah, some people have shown interest in coming to see the project. Sarah came to see it. She was the first one.
Yeah.
And then through the other meetings I go to, which is the EV Squad meeting that meets twice a month, and the Climate Action Collaborative that meets every month, I got some more interest in it. And Carlene Cullen, who's the founder of Cool the Earth, and Annika Osborne, who works with her in their nonprofit. There's both Cool the Earth and Ride and Drive Clean, and they both promote EV charging and EV purchasing in the county. And then Lori Mott, who's on the San Anselmo committee, I believe, she came to as well with them, and one other person, Kathy. I don't remember her last name, but I've seen her before in the Climate Action Collaborative meetings, and they were, it was good for me to give the presentation and have a dialogue with them, and so I learned things, and I think they learned how simple it can be. They have a charge at home website, which is a good tool to look at, to go through, like you have in your questions here, to see what you might do and how much it might cost to charge your vehicle at home. I was shocked at how much I put my apartment in, and it was about 3 times as much as what I spent. So when they looked at my property and saw how much I did, they were quite surprised. But
Phil, can you remind me how much per charger did you spend?
$2,000.
Wow.
And a lot of that is because the work was broken down. Where people who were able to do the work very efficiently did their portion of the work efficiently. It was more like Henry Ford all over again.
And you didn't charge a GC fee then, I take it.
So the website you mentioned was a cost estimator for installing?
Yeah, I think that's the one. It's called Charge at Home. And they also promoted some of their events. They have a EV show on May 4th at the Red Hill Shopping Center. And then as well, I'm meeting with Bridget, who's the Climate Action Coordinator for Fairfax and San Anselmo tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And, she's going to take a look at it. So I've yet to connect with Miles Smith, but I think that he's got something going on the 24th. So if David Muller doesn't get around to introducing us, then, I'll pursue him next couple of weeks as well.
So do you think you could, is it possible to put together a list of sort of lessons learned to how to keep it low cost that you've?
Well, I'm working on that. I mean,
Okay.
I think what I said to them is that most of this work is bid by electricians.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, electricians are good at and do electrical work. And they're not so skilled at putting things up, fastening things to the walls and
Mm-hmm.
doing that. Whereas people who usually have carpentry skills are better at that. So it can be done more efficiently if somebody looks at maybe breaking the project down into its components and having the people who are skilled at doing, the electrician can lay it out and say what it needs to be. And then the other people can neatly put it together and quickly put it together. And the electrician can do all the connections.
Right.
And usually, my experience as a general contractor for 40 years or whatever it's been, I forget, but has been that the people who are doing this work actually enjoy it. The electrician actually enjoys not having to do these things, the infrastructure stuff. He enjoys making the connections and figuring things out because that's what he's skilled at. So,
Okay.
so I'll be talking more with Carlene and Monica about that because I know they have training sessions for electricians and this sort of thing to try to promote the idea of getting the cost down on doing this.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for the update, Phil. Sounds like getting a lot of interest from that. So I think to Karen's question, why don't we circle back? We'll go through the whole thing and then we need to allow for public comment should there be any, and then we can have a discussion on these items. But that was a good question. So.
Right. And I also want to say this is this data that I'm presenting here is really started from a list that Phoebe put together and did some research on. And, we always tax her so much. So I said I would be happy to finish it. And then a few slides borrowed from the, what's the report called? The housing element, I believe it is, when they have to do research about what type of housing we have in each town so they know how much to add for the overall county goals. And in addition, Phoebe has made some additions regarding regulations. So with that, the purpose of this really was we wanted to really characterize where the multifamily units are and maybe develop a list of, contacts and things. So why don't you go to the first slide? So I guess what I should really say is that most multifamily units are rentals, but also most rentals are multifamily units. You can go back and forth. The green there shows, I get glasses out here, shows renter, and the blue shows owner. And so, of course, for single family and attached single family, it's majoritively owned. And for multifamily, it's vastly renters, 82%. Then we just have a small amount of mobile homes. But if you look at it, I thought it was kind of interesting. If you look at the rentals, 66% are multifamily, but we have significant single family rentals. So I don't know, while we're focused on multifamily here, at some point, there could be a push to say that it'll make your rental more attractive if you have a charger. Maybe a push, but anyway, they're also higher income. Next slide. A little bit more about renters. They tend to not surprisingly, be a little less wealthy than owners. AMI is area median income. And in Corte Madera, we have a great amount of folks greater than 100% of the area median income and a lesser amount of renters. So again, not surprising. Next slide. The other thing is renters tend to be a bit younger. Again, blue owners, they're in that sort of middle age range. I say that because I'm it's leaning towards the older. But renters, of course, tend to be a bit younger with a bit more on the above 75. So, but I guess the good news is younger may be more open to EV. That was my initial sketchy AI search. Okay, so next slide. And you may not be able to see this, but Phoebe started this list and I just checked it over and tried to add to it as I could. And we got the majority of the multifamily units, I think 80 or 90% accounting for in each individual properties. But what stood out is that over 500 units are located in 5 properties. And so we decided to, as initial cut, to really start there. I should say San Clemente Place is an EAH. I don't know exactly what that stands for, equal something. Anyway, it's a government housing. And so that has special regulations, but nonetheless, we'll really try and reach out to those. I have some suggestions in terms of reach out based on what I've currently found. But anyway, yeah, so we figured that was a really good starting point. 2 of those properties have some EV chargers, but there certainly is not one for every unit. Okay, so next slide. And then condominiums are both owner and rentals. We have some data on that, but there again, that really comes down to an individual decision. And the research that I did, which was not exhaustive, but anyway, I believe if a condominium owner wants to put a charger in, the complex must let them, but that condominium owner is responsible for any additional costs. So, just anecdotally, I have a friend who is in Eucalyptus Knoll, and a bunch of them want chargers, but they don't have the infrastructure. So it's kind of like the first person to put it in, pays the whole infrastructure, the electric upgrade. Of course, you would want the condominium association to come forward and pay for this, but I guess there needs to be a certain momentum for that to happen. At any rate, so it's a thought. Okay, and next. The other thing is that new housing units must have EV infrastructure, and Phoebe can talk a bit more to that. And Corte Madera has been assigned, and I know this is a little, well, I've heard arguments back and forth, 725 units. So that's a really good place to focus in it. And I know Phoebe has looked into this too, so she can add to that. So that's something else we might want to look at.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. So I just wanted to give a reminder of what Corte Madera's regulations are related to new housing production and EV charging. So as part of the REACH codes that were adopted last summer, all new residential units in Corte Madera are required to have some amount of EV charging. So this is just an overview of the different types of EV charging infrastructure that are defined in the code. So just briefly, this will help give some background for what the standards are. What we're probably most familiar with is just having level 2 EV chargers installed. So that's like the chargers that are out back in the parking lot. You pull up, there's a charging station, you plug in and can charge your car. That's level 2 EV supply equipment. There's also what's called EV ready spaces. And so that would be what Phil has installed in his multifamily property. There's the panel that has capacity for charger, there's conduit, there's wiring going to the parking space, and then there's a receptacle, there's an outlet at the space. So you can charge there, but the EV owner needs to bring their own cord to plug in their car. And that's called EV ready. And then the sort of lowest level that's addressed in the code is called EV capable. That means there's capacity in the electrical panel. There is raceway. There's the sort of tubing that would house a wire, but the wiring isn't in and there's no receptacle to plug into. So it's getting the infrastructure ready for EV charging, but it's not, you couldn't charge at that space. That's called EV capable. So what are Corte Madera's requirements for residential new construction for single family homes and duplexes that have attached private garages? There's a requirement for new construction to install a dedicated EV branch circuit, determining in a receptacle or charger. So there's flexibility there about doing either level 2 charging or the EV ready with their receptacle. And then I also put here the base code requirement. So this is the minimum that the state requires, that we have gone beyond with this REACH code. And the state's base requirement is just to be EV capable. So that lowest level of EV infrastructure. For multifamily, which is the focus here, Corte Madera requires that 100% of new units with assigned parking spaces have the ability to charge. 85% of those need to be low power level 2 receptacles, which is about half the power of a typical level 2 charger, but still more power than level 1 wall outlet charging. And then 15% need to have level 2 EV charging stations installed. And the base code requirement has lower percentages, which you can see on the right here. It's 40% low power receptacles and 10% level 2 chargers. And just to note that certain state housing laws that are intended to increase production of housing do allow for projects to waive local REACH code requirements if they determine that it's going to impact the affordability of the project. So in that case, the project would follow the base code requirement rather than Corte Madera's REACH codes.
Just to clarify, Phoebe, excuse me, the number one, the 85%, that's EV ready to correlate to your prior slide?
It is, yes, EV ready.
Okay.
And then we did also adopt some requirements for alterations that would impact multifamily developments. We haven't had any projects yet that triggered these requirements, but there are triggers when either the parking lot or the electrical system adjacent to the parking lot is modified, and that would trigger the requirement for 20% of the modified spaces, 20% level 2 EV capable, and 5% EV chargers installed. So back to you, Karen.
Well, it's okay. So I think just sort of summing up, so most multifamily dwellings are rentals, but we do have significant single-family dwellings that are also rentals. Renters are typically younger and less wealthy than homeowners, and property owners are really key, the large property owners, for our work in EV charging installations. And 5 properties have over half of the multifamily dwellings in Corte Madera. So that's what we want to do. 2 of these properties have some EV chargers, and seeing what their experience is could help with future installations. And new housing units I think are really quite a promise here for multifamily, but Phoebe went over those. And that's the initial take.
Do we have any questions for Karen and Phoebe regarding the presentation? No? Okay. Why don't I think we'll wait, we'll do the public comment after we talk about the questionnaire and then discussion about it, if that's all right. So thank you very much.
Okay, I have one comment before we go to the questions. We got together and just kind of said, why don't we start calling or whatever? And I reached out to 2 properties, and it's hard because of course you have to go through the sales. And I did speak to one property manager who then said, oh yeah, we wanted to install chargers, but the infrastructure costs were too high. We went over with PG&E, but really you need to talk to corporate. We're owned by a corporate entity. They really handled all the numbers.
If you don't mind, let's save
Sorry,
this
let's do
discussion
this.
for
Sorry, go ahead.
afterwards.
Okay.
That's all right. So I'm not going to go through these. I'm assuming that people read these, but would like to get comments if you have any, if you think we've missed something or questions didn't make sense, or you have any other suggestions. Now's a good time to do that. Yes, Phil.
I think this is very thoroughly done. Thanks for your efforts on that. I would, for properties without chargers, I would, the questioner might ask if they'd like to do a walkthrough and brainstorm possible locations and look at construction options.
A walkthrough with you.
With me,
saying?
I'd work.
You're saying a walkthrough of their property?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That would be something that would be, I think, helpful.
Okay.
And the other thing is to advise them about, and I'm using your analysis here, where you did a report that showed the increase in EV sales in Corte Madera over time, and trying to reach the goal in 2030 of 25%, and to advise them that there's lots of people out there buying EVs, and before you know it, there's going to be the demand is increasing by 2.5% or whatever it was per year. And just to let them know what's happening in the EV market in general would be the other item that I would add to that list.
Good comments. Thank you.
I guess I do have just where I was trying to lead with maybe in too lengthy a fashion is that I would suggest maybe working with MCE to talk with their account manager, because typically both MCE, your utility and a large property will have someone.
Sorry to interrupt you, Karen.
Yeah.
This is for questions.
That's what I'm getting
Okay.
at. Yes.
And then-
So the questions, we should gear the questions towards, the account manager. So that is my comment from that perspective.
Right.
They might be the same, but from my conversations, A, they've already considered it, and B, it's going to be from the perspective of someone who deals just directly with the energy account.
Any other questions on the questions? No? Okay. In that case, let's open this up for public comment if there are any. This would be on the general topic as well as on the specific things that have been shared today.
I am not seeing any hands raised on Zoom or attendees wishing to comment in public and in person. And we did not receive any emailed public comment for this item.
Okay. In that case, we will close the public comment and open it up for discussion amongst the committee if people have additional things they'd like to say. I'm going to propose that we'll arrange a subcommittee meeting after this. At the moment, we have 3 of us working on this. So it's committee member Lang, Simon, and myself, which is the largest number of people we can have on a subcommittee at the moment. Of course, Phoebe is assisting us, supporting us in that. So I think it'd be useful for the four of us to get together and talk about kind of next steps here. Obviously, we need to try to get in contact with some of the property managers and landlords, as we just discussed, to get their input. I think we have a much better feel for the fact base now, thanks to the work that you and Phoebe did. Karen and Phil, we actually have obviously firsthand experience now in terms of somebody installing one. So I think we should think about kind of what are the next steps here and what are the end goals of this. So are we trying to do an outreach campaign for education purposes? And what form might that take? I think that would be a good topic of conversation for us. So we can arrange that offline after the meeting. That's all right. Any further comments on this topic?
The only thing I say, I think we should, it's great. I think the questions are really thorough, but maybe I think it's worth revisiting after our talk with MCE and getting the context, because they may have a slightly different perspective.
Yes, agreed. Okay, with that, we will close that item. And we'll move on to item number C, which is discussion of strategies to promote participation in Resilient Neighborhoods program.
Just going to need to see, they've been doing a lot of outreach.
Is your mic on, by the way? Speak to the mic, please.
Yeah, so we met with Catherine, and so they've been doing a bit of outreach too in Corte Madera. So the whole idea was to see where we could partner and so we don't duplicate efforts. It was it was pretty informative. So they've presented in a number of places, like the Corte Madera Lions Club, Central Marin Rotary, Marin Sunrise Rotary, Age Friendly Corte Madera. And they've also done a lot tabled at the Ready Marin Emergency Fair this year, and also presented to the Corte Madera Climate Action Committee in 2022. They haven't done one so they thought it's time to redo these. They suggest, if we could help set some up, where they could present or table, they would appreciate it. And then they were willing to do introductory meetings in Corte Madera and have people who have been through the program talk about it and talk about the benefits of the program. They have a number of posters and our flyers that they're willing to share with us so we could hand them out where we think, in places we think would be useful. So just a little bit of information on what they do. I know there were some questions. So they have 4 times a year they try to promote their program. Let's see, they do 5 meetings, and the purpose is to calculate footprint, get together a personal climate action plan. That would be the second meeting, how to shop better, food waste, water. And then the third meeting was basically transportation and energy, and also look into emergency preparedness, building climate movement. I guess the next task would be to really get together a list of people that we can, so we can try to promote the program. We have something going on this weekend, the volunteer. I don't know if that's a good place to take some of these brochures and set them up. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
So I could print some of these out, and she sent the flyers.
Yeah. Did you get those too?
Yeah, I got.
Okay.
She's the email to both of us had an attachment to flyers.
Great.
So we could get those printed out and hand them out if you think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I'll also just note the other sort of ongoing promotional strategies are in the town newsletter. That's something that we've done regularly. We also, Catherine was also noting that Nextdoor is a really important platform for them to get the word out. So we're going to post it on the town's Nextdoor account, but then she was also inviting others to repost and share. So if any committee members like to do that, that can help get it out to more like localized neighborhoods. And then we'll also, I printed out one of the flyers that I'm going to put in our permit center as well.
Yeah, that was pretty much the gist. So if somebody would, so I know Phoebe and I can work together. She's already done a lot of the social media, the newsletter. So it's already been in the works. Question is, what way can we do to help them get the word out even more?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where it stands. Any questions? Yeah.
I have a comment that, because I've done the Resilient Neighborhoods program, that it's also fun and it's educational for the whole family, to participate and show interest in it. So I think it could be promoted along those lines too.
And just last time, I think I misspoke. They have gone online now. They're not meeting since COVID. They have gone online, and usually there are 5 meetings, about 90 minutes each.
Yes.
They're only online or they're hybrid?
Do you know if they're in the evenings or the day or?
So they have 2, one in the evening, 6:30 to 8, and the other one is 4:30 to 6. Some sort of alternative thing. Yeah, 8. I don't know. They have a certain number going on at each time, and I think they kind of alternate.
So is there any support you need from the committee or?
If anyone wants
otherwise?
to join, we can put together a list of people, places we want to hand out the brochures or distribute the flyers, either the library or just make a list of places we could distribute those flyers and help them.
Okay.
Anyone's interested, let me know.
Okay, so if anybody's interested, please reach out to Vanitha. Through Phoebe, I suppose, if you don't have her information directly. But that's good. Any public comment on this topic?
Not seeing any hands raised, no emailed public comment, and no attendees in person wishing to speak.
Okay. In that case, we'll close that item and move on to the 4th item on the agenda, which is a discussion of the Student Ambassador Program. As you know, we have a student ambassador, Sydney, unfortunately, not here today.
She is on Zoom.
She is on Zoom. Okay, good. Well, hello, Sydney. Okay, so Sydney's graduating high school this year. And so we're going to, if we want to continue the program, obviously we need to recruit somebody else. And we also thought it was a good opportunity to kind of evaluate sort of the purpose of the program and kind of what's worked and what's not working and maybe give it a bit of a refresh. So I was very pleased that committee member Dee Alexander agreed to kind of lead the charge on this. So I'll turn it over to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, and I think this is a great opportunity to take some time and get feedback from Sydney and perhaps the other youth members of the committee to get a sense of what would be most valuable for both the student ambassador as well as what we can foster as a committee and the value that we can get from that student as well. So I'm happy to take lead on reevaluating the current role description and getting feedback from members of the committee as well as Sydney, who I have a meeting with tomorrow, and thinking about ways that we can revamp this program as and if necessary and begin the next recruitment cycle before the end of the school year. If there's anyone else who's interested in participating in relooking at the Student Ambassador Program, more than welcome to join me. And if you just have comments or ideas, I'm happy to receive those too. My goal is by the next meeting to have a new kind of role description, if necessary, for the committee to review and to really jump on that recruitment for the next student ambassador.
Any questions from the committee on this?
Are we still staying with two student ambassadors? Is that?
No, we have one student ambassador and one student committee member, or youth committee
Yeah,
member,
sorry.
and then we have an alternate committee member. So we have one ambassador. But that historically, I mean, we could expand it, but that's been the,
Did have two at the beginning of the program, and then one of the student ambassadors moved out of Corte Madera, so she was no longer eligible to be
Got
a
it.
student
Okay.
ambassador.
so apparently we were able to do more than one if we had interest.
Yeah, the original role description was pretty flexible. I think it said 1 to 2 actually. Yeah, but up to the committee.
So I guess, is there any public comment on this topic? No. Okay. So if anybody's interested to help out, please reach out to Sarah and let her know. And also if you have ideas of things that you think, would be productive for both the committee and the student ambassador program, feel free to offer those up as well. So, okay. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. So, okay, so we'll move on to item number 5. This is updates and reports, starting with staff update.
So last night, council adopted the updated fee study that was sent out to the committee, and there were some changes made. They did vote to increase the subsidy for electrification permits from 25 to 50%. So that'll be reflected in the final version that is adopted and finalized. As mentioned at the last meeting, there are several committee members whose terms are expiring on June 30th. So that's Pat, Karen, Phil, Sienna, and Dylan. And you should have gotten an email from our town clerk about the process to reapply if you would like to. We do need to receive a new application if you'd like to stay on the committee, and those applications are due May 9th. Benitha mentioned the volunteer fair is this weekend. It's on Saturday from 10:30 to 12:30 at the community center. Thank you for Benitha for signing up to table. There is still an extra space if anyone else would like to join and represent the committee at that event. And the goal is to help inform community members who might be interested in participating about what the committee does and how to get involved. And about resilient neighborhoods. So that's great. And then finally, the Lions Club EV and Classic Car Show will be held, sounds like a long way away, but they're already starting to gather interested participants. So it'll be on Saturday, September 13th, in the same location as usual in the overflow parking lot. And so just wanted to check in with the committee at this point and see if there's an interest in participating in that again this year. Of course, it's still a ways out, so there's time to talk about what that participation looks like, but just want to get a temperature check.
So I just wanted to say, so of course I wasn't there, but I know last time we focused a bit on chargers and there was good feedback from that. Do we feel that could, what was people's experience last year?
Last time we were soliciting feedback on potential locations for public chargers, and we didn't get a lot of very specific feedback. There were people who came by and said, it's great that you're putting in public chargers, but there wasn't a lot of specific feedback in terms of where they should go. But that is something we could try to revitalize for this year. There are plans to install more chargers, and it would be helpful to get more input on what people think is the priority locations.
You can pass out information on the various levels of chargers I'm vaguely trying to call, but I don't.
No,
don't
so
remember.
last year, the county.
Oh, that's right. The
also
county did it.
participating,
Yeah.
and they had- So their booth was more focused on the
Yeah.
basics information. So that's a good question because I don't know. They had specific grant funding, I believe, for that last year. I'm not sure if they'll be participating in the same capacity this year. And if not, that could be a role that the committee could step into.
Right. Yeah.
PB, are we also thinking of having a booth at the July 4th parade?
That's up to the committee. Historically, the committee has participated in that event, but
Okay.
it's, optional volunteer opportunity.
Is it correct that we had better foot traffic for that last year than for the Lions Club? I'm just trying to remember. I seem to recall I wasn't there, but I seem to recall I was there walking around, but I wasn't tabling the event. But
I think in general, yes, there's a high volume of people at the 4th of July event, and we do get more people stopping by than at the.
yeah. Do people feel that would be useful to have a presence at the July 4th parade this year?
I guess as there's a high volume of people. I'm just wondering, my comment has always been, who's our target and what's our message? And if it's just that Corte Madera has a climate action committee or maybe here's what we're doing, or this year, are we promoting chargers, or I don't know, that's just my comment.
I tend to agree. I think it's better when we have something to organize ourselves around. So maybe that's something we will need to decide.
Yeah,
in the
we
next couple
can
of months.
agendize
So,
that.
yeah.
I mean, we do have the hot water heater postcards. We would have resilient neighborhood flyers. I guess those are two or whatever. Yeah.
Well,
not
potentially
sure.
some information on multifamily.
Yeah.
Generally EV charging. Let people know, maybe people aren't aware that we've got some installed now in the town, and what the options are for multifamily and so on. So,
Mhm.
okay. So maybe as an item, doesn't have to be an agenda item per se, but we can think about whether we want to have a presence at that and sort of what would be the collateral, if I can put it that way, that we'd want to have for them. Sorry if you got you off track there on the staff update. Was there anything else?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Any other updates from committee members?
I think Jared Huffman's speaking at the Mill Valley Community Center on the May 12th on, and the subject's climate from 5 to 6:30.
Oh. Sorry, say that again, May 12th, 5 to 6:30.
Mill Valley Community Center.
Didn't he have something at College of Marin recently, or is that coming up? I mean, he does periodic talks. Yeah.
With Jamie Raskin, I think, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's is it this weekend possibly?
I'm sure.
So this topic is what, federal approach to
I don't know. I don't know the specific
Trump
topic.
administration or something? Okay.
Get the
Okay.
gist of it.
On a similar note, I'll just add, and Phoebe circulated in an email, but next week is Climate Week. There are hundreds of events going on in San Francisco, mostly in the city, but there are a few things going on in East Bay, as well as at least one event in San Rafael. So I went last year. It was great. It really doesn't matter very much which event you go to, was kind of my experience. There's just a lot of really energized, plugged in people who are working on cool stuff. And it's a great way to kind of network and get a feel for what other people are doing and working on. So I encourage people to go if you can. There is a sign up process and a lot of the stuff is full, but there are still some vacancies at some of the events. So if anybody has the time and inclination, I'd encourage you to go. And I think if I remember correctly, Phil, you were going to go to the one in Alameda, right? Okay.
And I think the one in San Rafael is filled up.
That's the flooding one, right? The tidal.
Yeah, I'm in scheduled to go to that, and
You are?
I'm
Okay.
in. Mhm.
Okay, great. And the Alameda one, if I remember, is the municipal government, sort of what other towns and cities
Yes,
doing,
that's right.
doing around. Okay. Okay,
I'll
great.
take notes and
Cool. Okay.
deliver the results.
Yep. But if anybody's, interested, there are tons of events during the daytime. It's totally decentralized. It's all over the city. And then at night, there are a bunch of different like networking and cocktail events and that kind of thing. So. Any other updates from the committee members? No?
Yeah, I have a quick update. Refugia Marin has a special edition of their garden workday cleanup this Saturday at Corte Madera Town Park from 9:30 a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. And this is a really cool opportunity to meet people in the community, but then also really get a look at their permaculture garden there and get a sense of what an ecosystem-friendly garden looks like and examples of native plants right here in Corte Madera.
I missed the organization right at the beginning.
Refugia Marin.
Refugia Marin.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, any other updates? Everybody? Okay. So future agenda items, sounds like we should certainly have the EV, multifamily EV as an agenda item. I would say the student ambassador program for sure. Benita, did you want to?
Together a list of.
Okay. Okay. So maybe just as an update then for the next, not necessarily an agenda item. Okay. Obviously we don't need to have a vice chair item. Phoebe, is there anything that's going kind of from in the council's perspective that we ought to have on the radar? Any big initiatives that would benefit from this committee's input coming up over the next couple of months?
Something I have on my radar for hopefully the next meeting is the draft environmentally preferable purchasing policy for the committee's review and input.
Or that'd be for the May meeting?
That is my intent. Yes.
Okay. Are you drafting it?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Do you need help?
I'm sorry, what was the document called again?
I don't know what we're going to call it officially, but it's a environmentally preferable purchasing document. So
Okay.
for municipal purchases. Yeah, and that was one of our work plan items.
So sounds interesting. If you need support from the committee, let everybody know, I suppose. And if that does end up in the agenda packet, please make sure to read it before the next meeting.
Is
Sounds
that like
complicated?
the only example that comes to mind is like there's cement that's more environmentally friendly than others that's used, and is it things like that?
Yeah, although now that you mention it, I'm not sure if there's anything specific to cement in the policy. But its intent is to incorporate a lot of state and existing regulations like SB 1383, which is a state law focused on organic waste, has also a lot of purchasing requirements for local governments with recycled paper procurement. So it's incorporating those kind of requirements for like office supplies, but then also, yes, public works products. And a lot of it is drawn from the state's purchasing policies and other nearby cities and towns.
Does it address contractors for, construction projects and that kind of thing in terms of, favoring those who are using EVs, for instance, or anything along those lines? Is that within scope, sort of third-party contractors?
That specifically is not addressed currently, although there is draft language around including this in RFPs, but contractors using EVs.
Just as an example, or other, environmentally forward policies that contractors might follow, or that they might be attributes they might have.
Low carbon concrete.
Good. Well, that sounds interesting. Look forward to reading that. Any other things that people think ought to be on the agenda for next month? This would be May
May 21st.
21st. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm not hearing anything else. So any other business that people would like to bring up here before we adjourn? Oh, okay. In that case, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.